Welcome to today's podcast entitled I Am Every Woman. In recognition of Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month this September, I am actually your host, Tiffani Mickens. Just a little bit about me, just an avid supporter of women's health overall and also ovarian cancer. Before the pandemic, we were doing actual seminars just to talk about wellness, health, women's health, and with emphasis on ovarian cancer. I have a special love for ovarian cancer, just my 18 years of nursing experience. I've kind of incorporated teaching within those years and nursing education, and I also lost a family member to ovarian cancer several years ago. So I always love to teach and then also just support the ovarian cancer community by just giving back, especially during this month of September. So I'm your host today. I have two guests with me. To my right, I have Mr. Shane Grindle, and to my left, I have Mrs. Amiko Marold. So Shane and I, we know each other, and this is really personal.
Oh, yeah.
I actually was Shane's nursing professor at Jacksonville University when he was in nursing school in his baccalaureate program. So just really excited about working with him, and hopefully maybe in the future we'll have more opportunities to work together. So he's featured on our podcast today. And then I also had Mrs. Amiko Marold to my left, really good friend. She and I met about 5 years back, and it's like we've always known each other when we met each other. So she will tell you a little bit more about herself in just a minute. So again, today's podcast focuses on ovarian cancer awareness. We're broadcasting from Jacksonville, Florida. We're actually at Shane's clinic, and he'll tell you more about that. I'll start with Shane.
Great, thanks. Hey, happy to be here. Very, very important topic. You know, it's one of those things to where if we don't catch it early enough, then there is not very good prognosis with ovarian cancer. I'm sure you know. So it's very important. But I'm Shane Reynolds. I'm a family nurse practitioner. Welcome to my clinic. So this is Aquarian Clinic, but we were formerly known as Integrative Med Group. We're just working together, creating that merger process so that we can serve our patients better. We also have a clinic here in Jacksonville and in Tallahassee to better serve our patients. I'm also an adjunct professor over at Jacksonville University, so things have come full circle. I'm also a published author of the Nurse Practitioner's First Year Guidebook. You can find it on Amazon. Just very passionate about family practice and family medicine, and empowering women is always a very important thing to me too as well. So I get it, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany. Great to meet you, Shane. I am Amiko Marold. I am a 15-year, actually 20-year, take that back, insurance professional. Recently having transferred over into the life insurance realm, where I am a licensed life insurance agent and financial representative with State Farm Insurance. So that's the full circle moment for me because I left and now I'm back in that realm. I'm also a published author as well as nonprofit director, and just really a love for, of course I'm a woman, so other women and our women's health. And I'm again grateful to be here.
Great. So I think both of my guest speakers today will have a lot of great information to add into our talk today. So just a little bit about Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month and why it's so important. So back in 2016, actually President Obama officially proclaimed the month of September as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. This time we use it to honor those who are affected by the disease. We honor those who are, recently diagnosed, are currently receiving treatment, their caregivers, and also supporters in any way that we can during this month. So we do that by, again, talking about education and, what can we do better for early detection with the disease. And, we'll talk more about just resources that are available in the community. But there are a lot of different organizations that work together. They're separate organizations, nationally recognized. You may have some organizations within your local area that work together to better the cause, and we call them the TIL community. So I'm a part of the TIL community, and I have, officially kind of granted them the honor of being a part of the TIL community. So we all have one goal in mind, and that is to actually bring awareness to ovarian cancer, but to put an end to ovarian cancer. You know, until then, we place, again, that emphasis on education, early detection, diagnosis, and research is a big part of it. So you asked, what is ovarian cancer? So, you know, really ovarian cancer is rare. I don't think I had actually personally had a connection to ovarian cancer until my cousin Belinda Britton was diagnosed. So, I mean, I had heard of it, of course, in the kind of medical realm and, you know, dealing with patients, but had never officially known someone personally that was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So, according to cancer.org, all cancers in both men and women, cancer itself in both men and women are the #1 cause of death in the U.S. And so the 11th most common cancer among women is ovarian cancer. So we can actually break cancers down, which ones affect males versus females. But the 11th most common cause is ovarian cancer in women. So ovarian cancer is the 5th leading cause of death in women. So that's why we talk about, you know, why it's important to talk about this and kind of get a, you know, just an early start with talking about ovarian cancer and how we can prevent it. So the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, lists ovarian cancer as the deadliest gynecological cancer. These are cancers that affect women's reproductive system. So, you know, this one is the deadliest. And it includes ovarian for gynecological. Ovarian is one of them. Others include uterine and endometrial. Those are the most common ones. And then we have cervical, and you probably have heard a lot about cervical cancer and vulvar cancer. So these are all the ones that actually affect the reproductive system. So again, it's very basic. It begins in the ovaries. That's where it starts. And then it also can spread to other organs, particularly in the abdomen and the pelvis, but it can definitely advance and spread to other organs. So there's like 30 different types, but there's 3 different cell types. So there's epithelial, that one is the most common, and it's the most invasive. So a lot of your ovarian cancer patients have this common one. Germ cell, these are the ones that can start in the younger years, in younger age groups. Stromal cell also is another common one. So according to the American Cancer Society, a woman's risk for developing ovarian cancer is about 1 in 78 in their lifetime. Okay. About 22,000 women die from the cancer and complications annually. 22,000 are diagnosed yearly and 14,000 die annually. Again, it's one of the most fatal GYN cancers, gynecological cancers, and the survival rate, and this is why we talk about it so much too, is about 50%, their 5-year survival rate. So that's pretty detrimental.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah.
So, just a little bit about ovarian cancer. I don't, want to harbor on a lot of this. But just kind of tell you that you'll know some of the statistics about it. So who does it affect? And I really think it affects all of us in some way, shape, or form, right? Mm-hmm. So again, with me, that personal connection, I had a family member that was diagnosed and passed away. And then Shane, again, as a healthcare professional, he may care for patients, especially when we're talking about prevention. And then he may care for patients and women. Oh, yeah. So it'll definitely affect him, right? Maybe not directly, but indirectly. And then Amiko also being a woman, so it affects us, also. So there's no true known cause for it. So of course, we always talk about this whole genetic component, and I'm not a geneticist. Mm-hmm. It's pretty deep.
Me either, it's fine. Me either.
It's linked to so many cellular mutations, and especially, from research, we know the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, and so usually this is not something that we know that we have unless we have a family history of cancer, breast cancer specifically, and then usually you can have genetic testing, but genetic testing is usually pretty expensive.
It is,
and a lot of times it's not really covered.
Yeah,
so it has to be a reason for you to actually get genetic testing. So we know that there's a familial history tied to those BRCA1 and 2 genes. And then we also know, I'm sure there's a huge environmental component, and so we'll talk about a little bit later some things that we can do to lessen our risk for cancer, period. And so, with the BRCA1, BRCA2, I know I want to throw in about Angelina Jolie some years, probably like 10 years back. I know there was a lot of controversy in the media about her. She found out, I think her mom passed away from breast cancer.
Right.
And then
And
she
she
went and got
found out.
tested, yeah.
She went and got both.
And she found out that she had the BRCA, the gene, and so she decided to have a
Prophylaxis, double
prophylactic.
prostatectomy, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, so now she has a pretty low chance of getting breast cancer, but then what about ovarian?
What about ovarian? Here we
now?
go,
So,
right? So,
you know.
that was a big to do. I remember reading about that, and as a woman, I kind of was like, oh, wow.
That's a dramatic step, right?
That's a dramatic
That's
step.
huge.
However, as a healthcare provider, I kind of felt like, oh, well,
Makes sense.
She
makes
takes it serious,
sense.
yeah.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy behind that, but a lot of women have these genes. A lot of men have these genes.
Exactly.
Right? And so with men, them having these genes, they pass them along to their children. And then for men, they can have increased risk for colorectal cancers because they're tied to colorectal cancers.
And
a lot
men
of
can get breast cancer too.
breast cancer and
Get
penile
into
cancer.
it.
So they're tied to other different cancers. So whole nother story there with
Oh, yeah.
genetic testing. Very
Oh, yeah.
interesting. But again, it's rare in women 40 and younger. It's rare. However, I have met women who were diagnosed in their teens,
Wow.
in their late
Yeah.
teens. And within the TIL community, there have been pediatric cases. So the youngest that we've seen a few years back, Kenny, she was 2 when she was diagnosed.
Wow.
She had a form that
She was
metastasized,
awesome.
to the perineal cavity. So again, it affects
It can happen.
It
Not
can happen.
not very typical, but
Everyone,
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
So of course your risk increase with age. So 60 and older usually they say, and you see it more in your postmenopausal women. Again, white and black women, respectfully, there's really no difference. So it can affect all women, all races, all ages. But there are some things within our hormonal system that may put us at greater risk. So how is it diagnosed? And that's the thing we're going to talk about. There's no true test. Usually a lot of times when women find out, it's a little bit later down the line, and so sometimes it may have advanced or spread. So
And that's why outcomes are so poor, because it's caught late. And because initially there's no signs or symptoms. And then if they do have them, they're very nonspecific.
they're non-specific.
Yeah, they have abdominal pain, bloating, cramping.
Wow.
That can be a bad period, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, that could be a GI bug. So
I
how do we know?
Yeah, I was going to say that. So with the vague symptoms, my cousin complained of like indigestion. That was her thing.
Really?
And I remember her complaining about it. She actually was a caregiver for her mother. Her mother was on hospice and living with her. And so my cousin Belinda and her husband, they were caregivers. And I remember her complaining, saying that she had like GI issues and GI upset and she couldn't eat. She didn't have an appetite. So we get stressed sometimes, and stress may affect us in different ways, and so I think she probably just thought she had a lot on her plate, and so
Or acid reflux.
right?
It's
So
very
she
common.
just kind of passed it off as that, but later we found out very differently. But she
This
had
is
very-
all education for me because, back in the day with the advent of modern medicine, they're learning more because could you think of the number of women who could have actually passed from ovarian cancer who didn't know that it was ovarian cancer? They would say it was some strange disease. Some strange thing went on. So how long has this been, do you know how long have they...
Oh, I don't know. It's just, I think more recently we kind of have
the knowledge of
to understand and be able to diagnose things. So
just
we don't know.
remember.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
Like, who was the first case?
Exactly.
We don't know exactly.
I don't know if you're familiar with Henrietta Lacks, that
Yes.
story,
Yes,
and
she
how
is.
she had
She
cervical
lives
cancer.
forever, yeah.
Right.
She had cervical cancer in the late 50s, and how they
Those
used her
HeLoc
cells.
cells, yes.
Her HeLoc cells to. We're still using them now.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I said she lives forever.
She lives
Yes, she
forever,
does,
so we use
yeah.
them for medical research, education, like everything. So back then they had cervical cancer, so they were able to diagnose cervical cancer back then, but we don't know how long
Yeah.
ovarian has really been around, truly. So
And then screening and diagnostics haven't gotten really sophisticated enough until
Right.
recently to really kind of catch on to things.
Right.
And then still, those are still limited,
So again, those symptoms are constipation, frequent urination, bloating, abdominal swelling, the feeling of feeling full quickly, loss of appetite, weight loss, very vague symptoms that I'm sure women, we probably experience these all the time, especially, you know, those are who still have their menses. Maybe every month you have these same complaints. And so when we talk about how is it diagnosed, you know, again, there has to be a reason or maybe some indication. And I've heard women in the TIL community say that they went to their doctors and they say, you know, something's just not right. But it took a while to kind of piece things together.
Exactly. Like, how do we put a finger on that's just not right?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Because again, a lot of times they were diagnosed with gastrointestinal issues.
That's right.
And if we do order labs and diagnostics, they can come back normal.
They can come back normal.
So what do we do then at that point? So, you know, it's one of those things we could just kind of put a little extra hair on the back of our neck saying, hey, let's kind of look at this closer.
Let's dig deeper.
Yeah, it is. But then again, you know, we're really only as good as the testing that we have at our fingers. And then there's still false positive tests that can still happen. And then that runs you through the whole gamut of, you know, having the LEAP procedure, colposcopies and things that you don't need to have.
So
it's a balance. It's like a rule. That's why it's hard to diagnose. It's like we want to make sure to not over test and under test. So.
And so even when you're talking about testing the cancer antigen, the CA-125, so that one is not specific to ovarian cancer, but you know that's one of the ones that they'll do. I guess to kind of, if they have certain criteria that they're looking for to try to diagnose and or during the maintenance phase.
It just helps me to see where should I refer you to. That will be probably a GYN oncologist, so that we can kind of get those going, because that can be increased with a lot of different things, right? And so, but it's really most specific in women over age 50, because then you're not having the menses anymore. That can throw off that CA-125 score. Having menopause and now having periods again, that is a red flag for you to say, hey, we need to work this up heavy, because that could be ovarian cancer.
Yes.
That could be any type of cancer during that time. That's a red flag.
Right, red flag, yes.
Yeah, always a red flag.
Correct.
I love the idea of you know, getting to know the cat.
Yeah.
The family cat.
Yeah,
because
the cat.
that makes
Right.
It does, you know. It sounds funny and hilarious, but you know, if things become more personal between you and I think you'll be able to tell me those details you wouldn't normally feel comfortable with. Oh yeah, so that's why
I'm just gonna say it. For years, I have gone into my doctor's office, and it's such a sterile environment. It's such a, you know, so I feel like I'm sitting. I feel like I don't have that relationship, like you're saying. Get to know the family cat. They don't know that I have this great idea of my children, and I love my children. I love people. They don't know those parts about me or whatever.
Exactly.
So,
you know, they're just rushing through the appointment. They got 8 minutes with you, literally 8 minutes. Not here.
You know.
Take our time.
So wait, is that an industry?
That's literally
number?
It's 8. Good day, low volume is 15 minutes. You get 8 to 15 minutes. Let's just call it 15.
No wonder when I
day.
start a new conversation, they kind of cut me off.
I was gonna say I've had a few healthcare professionals that I've seen. So I saw a physician that was my actual primary. I went to him for a very long time. I just recently switched over, not because I wanted to, but he knew everything about me, and I think he made it a point to know everything about me. And then my GYN heard the same thing, so they always made notes. And so every time I came in, it was like, oh, well, they kind of take those 8 minutes, 10 minutes to catch up. Well, what's going on with this? How are you doing with this? Like, they remember. So they made it a point, and so I feel like even a lot of times, you know, you feel comfortable. You feel that rapport. You feel comfortable with those individuals, even if you kind of feel like, I probably should find somebody else, but I know them, they know me.
Right.
I trust them.
You don't want to go back.
You feel like you trust.
And you don't want to rebuild that rapport with someone else. Because think about how much energy that takes out of you to kind of tell your whole story all over again. It's stressful. It's stressful. I get it.
Yeah.
That's stressful. You know.
Anything else with education-wise? So just talking about it, building that rapport with our patients.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. Don't be ashamed. Share your story. I always say that, right? Okay. What about prevention? So what is the role of the healthcare provider within prevention?
So the prevention itself, you know, like we said, we don't know exactly what causes it, but you know, if we do things to stack the deck in our favor, right, and that's eating foods that are like low processed, you know, fast foods are always a culprit here as well, because what really cancer is your own cells attacking you. It's basically, you know, like a civil war, if you will. It's like your own
Inside.
cells are attacking you. So it's because they're mutated in a certain way. And so, you know, especially us in our field, you know, we're exposed to radiation too, though. So we should take our precautions of, you know, having those lead vests or things like that. Make sure that we don't get that radiation exposure. So occupational exposures, foods are important. That low processed food. So having a whole healthy diet's very good with veggies and things, because they're protective both cardiac and all the things, for sure. And then getting that activity, that like exercise, you know, because if you're stagnant there, then you're at risk of those types of things. So lifestyle is very much a modifiable thing. And then of course exposures, which we don't really have a lot of control of because of the, you know, we're exposed to pollutants in the air. So that could be another reason why we're experiencing a little bit more. Is the pollution situation, but you know, all these things we don't know yet, but you know, these are just assumptions that, you know, we can do to kind of prevent ourselves and just to live a healthy and active lifestyle. And then being kind of in tune with your own body and knowing how things are different is very important. That will help me, and just bring that up so we can fix that. So, and then staying up on your pap smears too, though. Not saying that it's going to diagnose it particularly, but that can be an early form of saying, hey, you have an abnormal pap smear. Let's work this up a little bit more, and that'll be a great thing to really help with that. Truly.
So with diet, I know we always talk about diet, and everybody hates dieting, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of different diets out there, right? So a lot of people share with me, a lot of women I've talked to recently are talking about being vegan, and you know, the Mediterranean diets out there, and remember old school Atkins, and there's so many different diets out there. But what are some basic things that we can do?
Basic things, I mean, I do like the Mediterranean diet. I mean, because it's balanced with those very good omega-3 acids, those fatty acids as well. Very good with olive oil and, you know, all those fish products, the salmon, the fish, the shrimps. Those are great for you. Oh yeah, those are very important for brain health, body health, heart health, all those things. So I would go there. I wouldn't find a diet that's very restrictive. But then are you going to, you can't stick to it. I mean, it's very hard to stick to it. So find something that you can like or enjoy, and then just kind of modify it, you know, to make it a healthy, make it fun, you know, bring the family on board with this new change, you know, if that's always very important to get support from family, you know, the family that cooks together stays together, right? So cook at home. I mean, I know it's very convenient to go out and order some fast food, but man, you don't know what's going inside of that food. You have no clue. And all these preservatives and things are not good. And some of these are known carcinogens. So think about that carefully before you put that McDonald's burger in your mouth. Let's have a second double take here.
I even told my husband, I said, we need to just kind of cut back and maybe eat out twice a week. So we do a lunch and a dinner.
Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation.
Cook our foods, and then just low carb. So cut out the sugary drinks. Definitely a lot of the snacks that we like to eat, and then try to low carb it. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, exactly.
In moderation.
In moderation.
Even moderation.
Yeah, you know, I always say moderation.
Carb. We need carbs, but
we do healthy carbs. Not, you know,
not the McDonald's.
Not the McDonald's carbs. I mean, of course they are, but come on,
with
moderation.
With that even being said, because of the healthy foods, I thought that one of the diets that I went on would help me with some of the pains that I was experiencing.
They will.
As with fibroids. So I took all this iron pills and everything. Because I was learning that I was anemic, not knowing that it was the fibroids was eating up all the iron, and you know, taking all the blood and everything. So which made me anemic. So that was another like journey that I had to go on. It actually took 6 months to a year before I actually found out how to eat, how to take the iron pills along with, you know, something, because you don't want the constipation and everything.
Orange juice always helps with that one, and
so very, you just have to learn how to eat well and how these diets impact your body, because everyone's diet is not going to work. Like Tiffany's diet may not work for my body, so I have to know that I can't do your fast or your diet or whatever. You know, just kind of being cognizant of who you are and what is going on inside.
That's why I tell my patients is like, hey, just bring me your diet and let's just do some smart substitutions here. instead of completely changing the way you do things, because that dramatic shift isn't going to work. You're going to fight it. It's always smart substitutions. I always say, let's change this soda for water or diet soda or something like that. Those are the smart substitutions that really help. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So diet and exercise. And exercise could be,
Right.
do I have to go to the gym today and run 5 miles? Because I'm not really a runner.
No,
I'm not really a runner.
no.
I'm horrible at running.
No.
Elliptical, yes, I can do, but the
That's
whole
fine.
running
And then
thing-
you may have a medical condition to where you can do impact running and things of that nature. I mean, it all starts with that first step,
and
right?
low impact is really
Low
good. So
impact.
elliptical, recumbent bikes,
Swimming.
swimming.
That is a workout.
Water
And there's
aerobics.
no impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that rowing.
Spin class.
which
That's
is-
That's
also
a lot of
known. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
It's a
Spin
lot of
class
work.
is fun. I mean,
I
if you
love
like
it.
dancing, go Zumba. I mean,
Zumba,
make it fun. If you make it fun, your studies have shown that you're going to stick with it further if you actually enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's just what it is. Make it fun. Make it engaging.
Engaging.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to shift a little bit. So talking about life events and things that happen to us unexpectedly, it seems like, right? So I even said an example would be the whole COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, my goodness.
that happened. I remember it kind of started. I went to India, and it had started, and then I was kind of unsure if I should still go, because I was like, I'm going to go for almost 2 weeks, and things had really changed, and things did change, and so I made it back just in time. But it was such a crazy time. I didn't realize, nobody realized that the pandemic started and just how long it would actually affect us. So that was a big life event.
Huge.
So,
I mean, COVID in itself, whirlwind. It just took all of us on that whirlwind, and I think we're still kind of spinning and finding our balance and everything. There was a lot of hurt because there was a lot of loss, all over, with it being a pandemic. Hence the word pandemic, impacting us all over the world. So being with life events, we just have to make sure that we are prepared. We are in a place where our mind is ready. You understand? Because, I mean, no one likes to talk. There are several life events. Okay, first of all, you have the marriage life event. Oh my God, everyone's excited about getting married. There's the baby, the new child in the family. That's another life event. Whether that is through, natural birth or even adoption. That is exciting. Everyone loves that life event. But then there's also another side of life event, which is the death, the inevitable. And COVID-19 pretty much made that real for everyone.
Made it real for a lot of us.
Yeah, everyone started then to talk about, oh my goodness, what are we going to do, So, just kind of in a segue type of way, we have to be prepared with life insurance. We have to be prepared with how it is that we're leaving our families. We have to be prepared with, what we are doing here and thinking about that legacy, because then a lot of us, we're getting prepared and say we have nice, fine jobs. COVID-19 proved that our jobs weren't really sure. And then the companies learned as well.
Even now, because a lot of corporations right now are making cutbacks, huge cutbacks right now.
Inflation, right? So now another event, inflation.
That's right. Inflation's another event. So just really being prepared in that way, both sides of it, because when a lot of people were not able to work, and then they weren't able to return to these jobs. But then some of the employees felt it as well, and especially the small business owners or whatever, when you can't bring in employees. Even McDonald's felt it. Now I can say that Chick-fil-A did have a full staff, because every time we'd ride through, there were people there. But the thing about it is, a lot of our world changed, with the COVID-19 life event. But one of the things that I, when I'm speaking with clients, I talk about is first off, what are your goals? And like I said, goals have changed. Goals have shifted since COVID-19. I think those of us who were shy to speak about it, we now know that it is a reality. And sometimes we don't know it's a reality until something like ovarian cancer or breast cancer or someone in your close, family in your realm experiences it. So COVID-19 made it real for everyone. So now that's a conversation that we're having. I want to be ready because you know that if something were to happen, everyone who's inheriting your assets, inheriting that fine home or whatever, with life insurance, we want to make sure that they're not also inheriting the debt and the burden of all of those things that you left behind. So the way that I kind of approach it is by saying something like, okay, what do we want to talk about with legacy? Legacy to me is so important. I want to make sure that, just like my mother's talking, almost preaching, when I was a young girl, every generation should do better than the one before it. So I knew that I had something to do, and that was to do better, than the one before it. And then, but how to do that? So then there's that question. Well, do something about what you're doing, because you don't want to leave that family with something such as a GoFundMe. We
see that a lot.
We've seen that because they're not.
You don't plan.
The planning part. So we want to talk about goals. We want to plan for those things. We don't want that GoFundMe unless it's. I've heard a lot of customers or clients. They have you protect your home, you protect your car, but what about protecting yourself?
Right.
And then even on the job, are you really planning to be at that same company? The millennials, and they kind of taught these new generation have taught us that people don't really stay on the same job, forever. Like we used to be loyal. You start at one company, and then that's where you are until retirement 40 years later. Some kids are giving it 2 years, some are giving it 5. I think some giving it 1. They just want to get that experience, feet wet, and they're gone. So that insurance is not the same. So then where I come in, and I talk to a lot of customers about, is having your own, owning your own, because the company owns the one that you have there for the $5 or maybe 20 after you say, oh, it's 4 times my income. Really? It's 4 times your income, but what about when you retire? Are you walking away with the 4 times your income? Not all the time. Right. In fact, in most cases, you're not. You're walking away with a minimum amount of insurance, and which may or may not cover, especially with today's inflation. So I have the conversation. Let's talk about your expenses. Let's talk about the family. What are those goals? We're not doing the let us figure it out. Yeah. Let's go ahead and make a decision today. So did you all have any questions or anything at this point? Okay. So with that, insurance, basically, there are 2 types. And under those categories, that whole umbrella, you have term, which is temporary, and it terminates at a certain date. It terminates, you have 5-year term, 10, 15, all the way up to about 30-year term insurance. And what happens is people utilize term insurance in various ways, again, temporarily. We utilize term insurance to go in tandem with, say, you purchase a new home or you purchase a new car, and you don't want to leave the family with that burden. You don't want to leave the family at all, but you have to really be wise in our planning. So if there is a 20 or 30-year mortgage, or whoever that the bearer of that particular mortgage burden is, I would suggest that they get a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year term.